Xiaomi's finally released a vertical flip phone, and no surprises in the naming of it. It is called the Xiaomi Mix Flip, a little bit like Samsung, right? The Z Flip 6 is a very similar phone to this, but is this model better? It has faster charging, a bigger battery at 4,780 milliamp hours. It's got two cameras on the rear, which are 50 megapixels, an inner camera, which is 32, and the foldable screen, inner screen, is 6.86 inches. The outer screen is 4 inches. So I'll let you know all about this phone and all the pros and cons, and if I think it's better than the Z Flip 6 from Samsung. So Xiaomi didn't send this phone to me. I bought it, and I have used these guys, which I do often mention in some of the import phones that I do cover. I normally buy them from Trading Shenzhen, so this is where I got this unit if you wanted to import one in yourself. So what do you get included? Well, a 67-watt charger. We have our Type A to Type C cable, and it looks like we're going to get a case or something in here. Well, there's our SIM tray tool. And yes, we do get a case, which is great. So remember, brands like Samsung, they don't include the charger, they just give you the cable, and they certainly wouldn't give you the case as well because they want you to buy that separately. So great that Xiaomi's doing this, and a nice purple color here that we have with this model, and the case, of course, is going to fit it perfectly. Now, the Mix Flip is not quite as light and as thin as what you get from Samsung's latest Z Fold 6, but considering this is Xiaomi's first flip-style phone, so not the Fold, which I've already covered, but having this flip up and not open like a book, not bad for what they've done. So the weight of it is 190 grams, and the thickness, when folded like this, is 16 millimeters, and unfolded it's 7.6. So that is not beating what Samsung has now, but I don't think it's bad at all considering it is a first attempt from them for this style of phone. So we have a metal frame around the outside that looks really good. The build quality is excellent, really do like it. We have a volume up and down there, the always on capacitive fingerprint reader power button. This really nice fabric on the back. I do like it. It's got this real nice texture to it. Now, how will this hold up? How will this age? I don't know. I'd have to come back to you in about a year's time, but I imagine it will probably get a little bit of grime with inside those little gaps there that it does have. You see, it is this nice fabric, and the only thing is it could get a little bit dirty there. But hey, that's really good looking. I think it's a great looking phone here. So we do have our SIM tray that takes 2 nano SIMs. We've got a IR transmitter. This is microphone, loudspeaker microphone there, and USB. Sadly, it does not have video out, and it's only USB 2 speeds, like from before with Xiaomi. And then we have our two 50 megapixel cameras on the back. Now, the odd thing about this is they've gone with the 50 megapixel main camera, but also 2 times optical, but it's 50 megapixels as well. Now, I feel like 2 times optical, you can almost get that kind of quality out of 2 times digital. They should have really put maybe an ultra wide in there, or maybe 3 times optical. I think would have been a better option, but that's just what it is and what they went with. And of course, Leica, but the Leica branding is here, which is a little odd. I guess they couldn't fit it in with the the screen here that we have, you can see, which is, well, really good. I mean, look at this. It goes right up to where the cameras are, both of those modules. Now, this outer screen is 4 inches, 460 ppi, so it's very sharp, it's bright. You can make it out also in direct sunlight, which is great. And you see when you open it up, you've got then that 4.86 inch screen here. Now, you've got the crease there. This is a crease that I think is slightly better than Samsung's Z Flip 6. They've done a very good job, Xiaomi, with this, with our Mix Fold. You feel it a little bit, you notice it, but when you're using it normally, you will not see that crease. It looks something like this, and you wouldn't be using it at a strange angle, so you can see that fold there, the crease in the screen. Now, magnets around the outside is a slight raised bezel, so when it is closed, it's not going to be rubbing up against each other. The screen's there, and even if a grain of salt somehow gets in there or a bit of sand, it shouldn't cause any problems with that. And the hinge, how does that feel? Well, very good. Now, you can use it to prop the phone up, so you can use it then like a tripod and a flex mode. That's all going to be possible, and I'll just show you that screen too. Now, the fingerprint reader, by the way, is working really well. So the screen that we do have is in the settings here, and it's just simply called outer screen. So you've got your wallpapers, the widgets, And then the important one is to add other apps. So I've got WhatsApp there and Twitter as well. You can use with that outer screen. If you were going to use it, I normally just look at that outer screen just to get the basic info like time or alarms or something simple is all I'll be using it for, because I always just tend to open up the flip style and fold style phones. Now the inner screen, this, as I mentioned, is that 6.86 inches, 120 hertz, supports Dolby Vision, and up to 3000 nits is their peak, their claim with HDR content. I've not been able to measure that. I get just over 1300 nits in direct sunlight, as you can see now. It is very viewable, it's usable, it is a bright screen, and it will eventually dull down the brightness if you're using the phone a lot. It starts to get warm. Now we do have a sunlight mode that you can turn on if you're going to be turning off the automatic brightness, and you just force on a manual brightness, which I have done now. Now you won't really see too much of a difference with this screen here with the black background and the dark mode especially, but what it does is just tweak the contrast a little bit and things to make it even brighter in direct sunlight, and it certainly does help. It's a good setting there. Now the animations all look to be pretty smooth here with HyperOS, and it's version 14 based off Android 14. I do find it to be very fluid, no issues there, and touch response, I haven't really experienced any problems. The only thing I've noticed with is sometimes when I go to unlock it, I mentioned this with the Mix Fold 4, is that occasionally if I haven't used the phone for a very long time, like overnight, I might see that little spinning icon for a split second before it loads in all of my applications and the icons here. It's just a very minor little criticism from me. I wish that they'd just optimize it so you wouldn't get that little split second of lag. Now, there is quite a bit of bloatware present when you first get the phone. When a Chinese phone imported, there's a lot of all these Chinese applications that are not relevant to us. You need to know, probably both actually, you need to have both Chinese knowledge and live in China to be able to use most of those applications. It is very quick and easy to get rid of them, so just use that pinch gesture in the screen, on the screen there, and you're able to go along and select all those different apps and remove them. I think there were about 27 bloatware apps that I uninstalled, but it only took me about 2 or 3 minutes. Still, it's worth mentioning that there's a lot on board. I'm on the latest firmware at the time of this video being published, and I checked again today because I've had the phone for over a week now. I've had it about 10 days. There's no further updates, so it is the latest firmware. My battery life test here, so not a bad result. In fact, a very good result. Now, it's not meant to be an accurate test here, but I do set the same brightness. It's the same fixed test on all the phones I run. In all my reviews, you'll find this same test that I do, and it allows you to compare the phones with battery life. But of course, not really exactly realistic here, but 11 hours and 50 minutes, I can tell you now, is a very good score. The battery is larger than the Z Flip 6 from Samsung. So this is 4,780 milliamp hours. Samsung have only 4,000 milliamp hours, and they do have a slower charging speed of only 25 watts. This is 67. So realistically, real world use, about 8 hours of on-screen time, which is excellent. Charge time, okay, here it didn't measure it correctly. Somewhere halfway, 63%, sorry. It triggered it again, but anyway, the end result was 42 minutes. It took me to fully charge the 4,780 milliamp hour battery. I think that's pretty good. That's a decent speed considering the Samsung, the Z Flip 6 will be taking well over an hour. This is almost twice as fast as this phone. Camera 2 API support, yes, present. So open camera, any third-party apps you want to use, Gcam or whatever, will work with these cameras, all of them. That's the inner 32 megapixel camera as well, and those two 50 megapixel outer ones. Dolby Vision support is listed here with Netflix. This is within the Netflix app, the playback spec. So you can see we've got HDR10 and Dolby Vision and Full HD. All checks out, all good. I have watched some videos on this and they look really good with that Dolby Vision especially. So on to the bad things. I couldn't run the wildlife extreme stress test. Just like the Mix Fold 4 that I've also reviewed in the channel, it overheated the phone and it threw me out of the app. It just shut it down. There was no overheating error message like I got with the Mix Fold 4, but not good. It means I could not complete that test for you. But I do have here the storage performance. So you can see that it's UFS 4.0 and we're getting good speeds, nice sequentials and very good random reads and writes. And finally, the Antutu score. It's not the fastest for the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3, and the reasoning behind this is because Xiaomi's throttling this chip a little bit, and as I saw and pointed out, that when I tried to run the benchmark for wildlife stress test with 3D Mark, it wouldn't do it, and you can see it gets up to 50 degrees here, and in gaming, I have measured 52 from the frame of the phone, so it gets really hot. Thermals aren't exactly amazing. It is one of the downsides of this phone. So this title here is Endless Zone 0 on the top settings, and with our mix, the performance is good to start off with, but the longer you play, the hotter the phone starts to get, and you do start to see some occasional frame dips come into play, which does get a little bit noticeable, and the phone certainly does get hot. Around this area here, around the outer screen, around the frame, I've measured up to 52 degrees, so that's getting pretty toasty there. Loudspeakers, it does have two of them, so down here where the Type-C port is, and then the earpiece up the top, and you do hear them. The volume of them is good. There is no distortion, and I'll play you a sample track now, which is, the one I've been using now for quite some time. However, it doesn't give me any copyright strikes, and we'll get a good idea of what the speakers sound like. They're good, but they're not the best I've heard, but I think they're acceptable and above average speakers. Onto the cameras with the flip. So this is the inner camera, and we can shoot 4K 30 frames per second, which is good. And the quality seems reasonable. Typical Xiaomi, that I find the video quality is normally quite good. It's certainly better than some of the other brands out there and brands from China. And this is using electronic image stabilization. But let's take a look at the outer cameras. Main camera, which has 50 megapixels, the same as that 2x optical zoom camera. So no ultra wide, unfortunately. I feel like I want to use an ultra wide here. 4K, and I do wish that the flip had the ultra wide, but it doesn't, unfortunately. So that being the main camera, stabilization is looking good. This is 2x digital, and 2x optical is what I wanted to say, and then 4x now that's digital using that zoom camera, I believe. Don't think it's cropping the main camera. It shouldn't be. It should be taking advantage of that 2x optical camera, and that's what I'm using right now. And back to our main camera here. And yes, I missed the ultra wide, and just do a bit of a zoom test here. So that's 4x. Zoom into these people here. And that is now 7x, which is looking very poor. Wouldn't want to go really over about 4x zoom. That's probably why they have it as that preset there, 4. And even at 4x, not amazing quality, is it? Looking at stills now, so outdoor shots do have a lot of detail retained there. The colors don't seem too oversaturated. Portraits need a little bit of work, especially when you use the 2x optical camera. I did find I turned off all the beautifying effects. I still find the photos to be pretty good. Indoor photos look good. Now this is better than an iPhone 15 Pro Max indoors, less noise. Daytime shots here, colors. It didn't clip all of the different shades of the pink there with the flower. And then this is the main camera again. It still looks good, and I like what we're seeing there with the colors again, with bright things like flowers in the shade here with that shot. Night shots do look excellent. I am overall quite pleased with these cameras. I only wish it had an ultra-wide camera, or maybe 3x optical. That's it. But overall, I think as a package, those cameras are pretty good. So answering that question at the start, do I think it's a better phone than Samsung's Z Flip 6? Well, it is in some areas, and that is the size of the outer screen. The battery capacity that it has is better. The price of it is also better there too, but it's missing out on a couple of key things, I think. And that is, there's no video out support with the Type-C port. It's only USB 2.0 speeds for some weird reason. And of course with the Samsung, you have One UI, you have their desktop mode support with video out. So the software is better with that. This is one of the downsides to Xiaomi, I think, is HyperOS. It's not as polished and as refined as you get with One UI. Hardware-wise, it's certainly there. It's a very good phone, very good outer screen brightness. Inner screen is very good. It's fluid, it's fast, but it thermal throttles and it gets that hot that it won't run the 3D Mark stress test. Not a good look, but it's the same as the Xiaomi Mix Fold. I had the same issue there. So all up, it's a phone that has very promising hardware, apart from the Type-C port and video out, and the software lets it down a little bit. So should you get it over the Z Flip 6 from Samsung? I think if it's for a very good price, yes, but otherwise you're probably better off going with the Samsung Z Flip 6. Thanks a lot for watching this review of the Xiaomi Mix Flip. Almost getting confused and calling it the Fold.